Follow us on all socials at 947 The Block.
Good morning and welcome to Conversations on the Block. I'm your host, Pat Robinson. Good morning to my WFAN, WCBS, 1027 and 94.7 The Block family. Tri-State this morning, I'm bringing to you a Brooklyn-based cultural advocate and hip-hop historian who has dedicated his life to honoring the legends of hip-hop through public art and civic recognition. He was born in Kingston, Jamaica, immigrated to Brooklyn as a child, and grew up during the formative years of hip-hop in the late 1970s and early 1980s. He vividly recalls block parties, playground, rap battles, and the booming sound systems that planted the seeds for his lifelong dedication to HeteroDoxX Inc. His legacy is preserving hip-hop history through street renamings, and we're going to talk about that this morning. Some of the street renamings are Notorious B.I.G., Wu-Tang Clan District in Staten Island, Malik Fife Dog Taylor Way in Queens, Sylvia Robin Place in Inglewood, New Jersey, Avenue of the Roots in Philadelphia, and there are plans underway to tribute towards De La Soul, Outkast, Public Enemy, and the Beastie Boys. Welcome to the show, LeRoy.
Thank you for having me.
Wonderful. So tell the Tri-State, for people who are just learning about all of the lifelong work that you've been doing, tell us about how this all started for you.
Well, I'm a Brooklyn kid, New York City raised, so I've been around these streets for a long time. A lot of the hip-hop artists who are from New York always shout out their block, their neighborhood, their borough. And so New York City is the birthplace of hip-hop. However, until a few years ago, they weren't really recognizing hip-hop in a formal manner. And so I reached out to the powers that be to ask if they could have a street name for Biggie, which I started in 2013 to campaign for that. And it got shut down by the community board in Brooklyn. And then eventually it got dedicated in 2019 in Brooklyn. And from there, I thought that it would be great to have a street name for a hip hop act in each borough. And so actually, the first one was for Sylvia Robinson, the founder of Sugar Hill Records in Inglewood, New Jersey. And so with Sylvia Robinson, that started the ball rolling. And just as Sugar Hill Records had Rapper's Delight, which was the first widespread hip-hop record to come out in 79, 80, that, caught fire, it's poignant that Sylvia Robinson was honored with a street name in Inglewood by the municipality. And then from there, in New York City, having a street name for Biggie in Brooklyn, the Wu-Tang Clan in Staten Island, the Beastie Boys street name in Manhattan. Fife Dog was successful in 2016 after his passing, and forthcoming is a street name for a tribe called Quest in Queens. It's already been approved by New York City Council. However, the dedication is forthcoming when the time allows for the group to have that done. And I work with the family of Big Pun to have a street name for Big Pun in the Bronx. And so all 5 boroughs are represented.
That's amazing.
And New York City has hip-hop literally on the map.
That's awesome. And congratulations to you. And so thank you for sharing that. When you mentioned that initially when you started in 2013 and you presented this and it got shut down, tell the Tri-State what's involved when you're trying to approach this process, because I don't think it's as easy as what people anticipate, meaning you have to go and present the information. You would think that we're living in a society where people would automatically know about the culture and the influence that these artists have made, but what do you have to do to evidence the story to get it approved?
Okay, so what occurred in 2013, I first reached out to the powers that be at that time. The council member for that district where Biggie's street name is located was Tish James. And Tish James, as a council member, moved on to be the public advocate in New York and now the New York State Attorney General. But at the time, it was still a new initiative. People were trying to find out, can this be done? First of all, to have a street name in New York City, you have to be deceased. And so because Biggie was passed away, and I thought that there should be some type of historical marker And the street name was the concept that I came up with to outreach to have that done. And with that, it was successful in terms of getting the community support at St. James and Fulton Street. The local businesses, the residents supported it widespread, from the supermarket where Biggie used to bag groceries at the Key Food, and the barbershop where he used to cut hair right across the street. That was his neighborhood, and so they supported it. The mosque, all of them supported the street naming for Biggie. However, the community board had objections. They talked about his lyrics, they talked about the stories that he told in his songs, and this one objectionable person said that he didn't have the physical characteristics to be a role model. And so, we pushed on, and eventually it got done in 2019. So it was pretty much a 6-year journey to advance. And that's just the Biggie story. The hardest one that ever got done, to me, was for the Beastie Boys.
Yeah, because they're iconic.
Yeah, they're iconic, and they're New York rappers. They're New York, representing New York in their rhymes, and one of the founding members of Def Jam Records, which is a very poignant hip hop label worldwide, and put out a lot of iconic hip hop artists, and so founded at NYU, Rick Rubin, Russell Simmons. Back in the day, and so, but it was difficult to have them honored with a street name because of the local community board, and not all. Thankfully, there's people like Carolina Rivera, who was a person working on the community board to have insight. Oh, this is a good idea, but there's voters, and so it did not advance at that time. But locally, years later, there was a new council member, Christopher Martin, who was very supportive of this endeavor, and eventually it got done. So the community supporting the initiative is one thing,
right,
but then you have to have the political support to have it done. Even in the political arena, the Manhattan Borough President, Mark Levine, was supportive of this endeavor. But, it's the community board, the city council, the member, the residents, the businesses. And so it's a collective. And so the campaign to have that done, or the lobbying to have it done, took a while to get done. And in 2023, on September 9th, Beastie Boys Square was dedicated at the corner of Rivington and Ludlow, which is significant because their album cover for Paul's Boutique was photographed on that intersection.
Oh, that's amazing.
A place called Lee Sportswear, which is now Wolf's Night. And they've been supportive in having, Wolf's Night has been supporting in having a mural of the Beastie Boys placed at that location. And so not only with the Beastie Boys, but for Phife Dawg and the Tribe Called Quest, I had a mural painted at the dry cleaners where they had the Check the Rhyme video on the roof of that video of that song, and it's going to be redone. Vincent Valentine is the artist for that, and so hopefully that could be dedicated with the street name, a redone mural for the Tribe Called Quest. And at Biggie, at his intersection, there is artworks around the corner, and is considered to be like an art gallery, street art gallery. And what I said before is that I would like to honor Biggie, honoring these hip hop artists, to be like the Abbey Road, where the Beatles had their famous album cover crossing the street, the 56 Hope Road, like where Bob Marley is from in Jamaica. Those are iconic iconic music-related entertainment locations. And so in hip-hop, there are locations citywide, nationwide, which are poignant to the music that was made, because Biggie's music reflected the streets, as did many of the other hip-hop artists. And so for New York City, you could say that there is no music which is more reflects the streets than hip hop. And so it's very significant that New York City and elsewhere honor the music which has reflected the times of the music that it has come from.
Right. I mean, so LeRoy, there's millions of people in the world, and you took this up on your own and decided to not only take it up, but to see it all the way through. When you think about what you've done, do you reflect on what you're doing, have done, and continue to do for the artist, the family, the legacy, and the history of music?
Well, I'll tell you this. Last weekend, we had a back-to-school block party on Biggie's block. And the permit took a while for it to advance and to come through, and so we didn't have a large turnout. But we gave away backpacks, courtesy of United Way, New York, and working with a New York City Department of Youth and Community Development, it was a success. Also, the Brooklyn Public Library was part of the endeavor. And so there were students, there were young people who received book bags, school supplies, and the leftover that I do have, I'm going to give to a teacher for her students. And so that's street names are honoring the legacy of an individual who passed. And everybody can't get a street name, but at the same time, though, the future, honoring education is something that can move it forward. And on the book packs we had, Spread Love is the Christopher Notorious B.I.G. Wallace way on it. And so, young kids, even kids in high school today, they weren't alive when Biggie passed away, but they know who Biggie is. And Biggie, to me, I appreciate him. I met him, just once in passing when I was working at a record company in Atlanta. His record company, Bad Boy, Arista, at the time, BMG, offices in Atlanta when I was down there, for a period of time. And I met him in passing, met members of his crew. That was cool. And then I moved back to Brooklyn and I started working in the film and television industry, which we can mention a little bit. But what occurred was when I came back to New York, I realized that, New York, and I came back to New York after Biggie passed, so I realized that New York wasn't really doing anything to big up hip-hop. And the first hip-hop street name, let me tell you that, was for Run DMC, JMJ Way, which is at 205th and Hollis Avenue. And that was dedicated in 2009, I believe. And the family of Jam Master Jay spearheaded that to get done. And so Biggie wasn't the first, Wu-Tang, Phife Dawg wasn't the first, but there's been plenty after since I initiated the movement to have these streets named, and not only in New York, but also you mentioned Philadelphia, Oakland. I worked on getting a street name for Tupac Shakur, and so with that, there's plenty of others which are pending, but this is what I've done over time. Yeah.
And if you're just joining us, you're listening to Pat Robinson Conversations on the Block, and we're talking to LeRoy McCarthy, who is the cultural advocate and hip hop historian, is doing amazing work. So you mentioned something earlier. Do you see? I love the fact that you brought up, hey, when I came back to New York, I recognized that hip hop was not being represented. When you think about places on how New Orleans celebrates jazz and how other places celebrate it, what are the parallels there? And are we in the space, are we getting there where we have this cultural celebration that's consistent?
Well, New York City is a city that doesn't stand still. So you might have a musical art form that is emerged out of New York City, but New York is always going on to the next thing. Places like New Orleans.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
It's a necessary thing.
Okay.
You have to have movement, or else you stand still, you die. Kind of like a shark. You got to keep moving. You got to eat. You got to keep growing. New York City would be a small, sleepy town if there wasn't industrial minds moving the city forward over years and decades and centuries. So, here we are today, 2025, and still moving it forward. But New York City should recognize and honor its legacy. And the creation of hip-hop that came from the streets. Shout out to Kool Herc and Sidney Campbell, his sister, who threw the party on August 11, 1973, that 1520 Cedric Avenue. And Kool Herc was the DJ that, innovated the music
Mixing, right.
to the beats to, form hip hop as we know now, moving forward. Definitely appreciate the legacy of hip hop and the founding fathers that have come after, and Sha Rock, the first woman MC,
Right.
Coke Rock, shout out to him, Red Alert, Ralph McDaniels. All these people
Right.
have continued to advance the legacy of hip hop and moving it forward. So, but at the same time, though, places like New Orleans, jazz is a part of the culture there.
Yeah.
A place like Nashville, country music is
Right.
a part of the legacy there. And you cannot be mistaken when you go to those
Right.
places and you see jazz in New Orleans in the streets, and you
That's
go to Nashville. But in New York City, although we are changing all the time, moving forward, you still should recognize and honor the legacy of arts, culture, education, industrial powerhouses that have moved America in New York City forward.
Right. Thank you for sharing that. So in 2023, we celebrated the 50th anniversary of hip hop. It was phenomenal. I witnessed hip hop artists that I have not seen in years performing. It gave a lot of visibility and just remembrance of memories to many artists who some might say have been forgotten about or might not even have had the opportunity to perform or work. How did you feel about that 2023 kind of effervescence of celebration and where we are today?
Well, I would not consider myself to be a musicologist, but I do know that before hip hop, there was a music, disco, doo-wop, and other art forms which were not celebrated on their 50th anniversary. And so it was significant to have the widespread celebration of hip hop locally, nationwide, and on a large scale. This is something that you can't really control
Right.
how things would develop over time, but it's good to acknowledge, everybody has a birthday. Luckily, some people don't have a birthday, so you sometimes people don't celebrate their birthday, but to celebrate an anniversary is significant. And then also the 50th anniversary. Let's say that's a year of maturity. 5 decades, and so hip hop, what it is in 2023, is not the same as in '83. But at the same time, though, we have progressed, and just like I was talking about New York City, you keep moving forward, you keep developing, and hip hop is at a point now where the young hip hop artists are developing their own sound and moving the hip hop art and culture forward in their own way. All of the music might not be for everybody. There's different taste, but at the same time, though, it's good to see that growth is occurring, and sometimes the growth might take a wrong direction, but you just gotta keep moving forward.
Yeah, and so as you said, it's growing, but it's not just in the United States; it's in every country.
Yeah.
Right? It's everywhere.
Yeah.
You go to China, it's hip hop is everywhere, so it doesn't belong to one place. It's widespread. But do you think that the countries respect the history and the things like what you are doing in terms of, are there enough documentaries? Are there enough museums that are telling our stories? I know right now we're in a space where some of our museums are under attack. But do you think that the countries respect the origin of the hip hop?
Respect is a funny word because sometimes you might get it, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you got to speak up for yourself to get it. And I think what I've done over the time is speak up to get that respect. Unless you ask for it, sometimes people would step over you and step on you and take the credit for themselves. So you just got to respect yourself, keep pushing forward, And the respect that you might receive also might not be the respect or level of respect that you think that you deserve.
Right.
But you keep pushing forward regardless because respect yourself, first of all. And then, don't let people trample you.
Yeah, yeah. And so you've helped push Hip Hop Recognition Month and Hip Hop Celebration Day. Tell us about that.
Right. So going back to what you just said about respect is I worked with lawmakers. Senator Chuck Schumer has been supportive. Also, Hakeem Jeffries has been supportive. In Washington, D.C., in Congress, they formed what is called the Hip Hop Congressional Caucus. And that was launched on February 14th, 2024, pretty much right after the 50th anniversary. Jamal Bowman was instrumental in that, and I worked with his office to have a resolution passed in the Congress for hip hop, which did not occur in 2023, but luckily in this year in 2025, also working with Senator Schumer, it was passed in the Senate as well in Congress. And so with those types of advancements in the governmental aspect, there is now on record for hip hop acknowledgement. And that can be utilized as well in the schools, in the community spaces, and the different opportunities for that to be utilized. And so the fact that hip hop is now in the congressional record and now in the known in the government spaces, that's a great thing.
Yeah.
It's not vital. Hip hop is going to be dope regardless of if our lawmakers acknowledge it or not. But it's good to have that type of recognition in order to do bigger and better things as well. But let me say this, that thankfully there are people in government who acknowledge that hip hop is an important aspect.
Right.
And it's also economic impact in the community in many different ways. And not everybody who is successful from hip hop or a part of hip hop was rapping or DJing. You have fashion, you have art, you have a lot of different aspects of radio, that contribute to success from hip hop. And these are things in which can go further with this acknowledgement of a street name, of a resolution, of a working with the hip hop artists to advance the art and culture of hip hop.
That's amazing. And you said that has already passed the Senate and Congress, is it?
Yes, it passed in 2021 with Senator Schumer, and Jamal Bowman attempted to pass in the Congress. It didn't advance then. And then it passed again in 2023 with Senator Schumer for the 50th anniversary. And we recently rewrote it, the resolution for 2025. In the Senate, there's like a 2-year time frame for these things. So luckily it was passed again this year unanimously, bipartisan, by Senator Schumer's sponsorship, and also with congressional, the Hip Hop Congressional Caucus.
That's amazing.
Passed it in the Congress as well.
Right. And so Tri-State, if you're hearing that again, that kind of, once that's passed, that kind of gives space, as you said, for schools and art spaces and community spaces to do intentful programming and, showcasing and just a remembrance from all of those people who've influenced the culture. I know I heard something about you doing TV. Tell us about what you're doing in the TV space.
Well, for a vocation, I actually work as a location manager for film and television productions.
It's amazing.
And I've been doing that for a long time. The first film I actually worked on was He Got Game.
No way.
Yes. So I was an intern
Spike Lee joint?
Spike Lee joint, starring Denzel Washington.
Oh, man.
1997.
So can I ask you something? You saw Denzel in wait, hold on. You pronounce his word Denzel.
Okay, yes,
Denzel. I heard that.
Washington, yeah.
So you were in person with Denzel Washington?
Yes, in '97, I worked on the set of He Got Game. We filmed a lot in Coney Island, and prior to that, all right, so I went to school in Pennsylvania, Cheney University, which is the HBCU. And when I was there during school, Spike had a store in Brooklyn called Spike's Joint. And so what I used to do was buy wholesale hats and T-shirts from Spike's Joint and resell them in Pennsylvania. And so I had a little relationship with Spike's team. And then in '97, when I moved back to New York after college and after living in Atlanta for a period of time, I saw that they were filming He Got Game. And at the time, let me back up a little bit. And when I was living in Atlanta and working in the music industry, it was cool. But then coming back to New York in '97, I said, oh, they're making this movie? And I said, okay, let me see if I could get on. And so I actually got a job in the production office of He Got Game while it was being filmed. And the fact that I was from New York, I was from Brooklyn, sometimes I used to have to drive down from Fort Greene, where the offices were, to Coney Island to go to set and where there was filming. And so because, I'm from New York, getting from Fort Greene to Coney Island, I did it in quicker time than other people who was driving.
Right. Knew how to do it.
Yeah, I was from New York.
Right,
so,
right. The shortcuts.
Yeah. Ocean Avenue, straight up, Coney Island Avenue, it'd be good. And so doing that, I was a valuable member of the production crew, I thought. And everything worked out well. And being on set with Denzel, Spike, Ray Allen was there, Rosario Dawson, among others. Jim Brown was in the movie. So it was great to work on that project. And I matriculated to being working on like 5 more Spike Lee films.
Amazing.
Summer of Sam was the next one after He Got Game, and that was filmed in the Bronx, in Country Club section of the Bronx, among other places that we were at. So, and I was working in the location department, and then working in the location department, I eventually became a location scout for, I think, 25th Hour and some other projects, She Hate Me, that he filmed. And the last film that I worked on with Spike was Inside Man.
Wow.
And starring Denzel Washington again. And then after that, I started working freelance on other film projects, and I've been working in film and television since '97 till now.
That's amazing. Yeah. Do you love it?
It's cool. It's cool, but you know what it is? Let me say this. I connected the past of working in the music industry and thinking about, hip hop and then also working in locations. What you do in locations a lot of time is you are a liaison between the community, the government, and other entities that you're filming at on location with the production office. So I have a long history of working with government officials in certain capacities to have to have films made on location. And so, there's a balance that has to be done when that takes place. And so I utilize those skills to reach out to government officials to have street names for hip hop artists. Yeah. And so, I have a certain skill set that allowed me to transfer and make these things happen. And let me say this, that there's also a street name at 1520 Cedric Avenue called Hip Hop Boulevard, which a group of gentlemen put that together, but it was on the shelf for a while because of politics and things of the sort. And my background, just working in government officials, I reached out to council member at the time, Vanessa Gibson, who is now the Bronx Borough president, to try to help it advance. And eventually it did advance. I think Al Pizarro was the leader for the group of men who attempted to have Hip Hop Boulevard. And now in front of 1520 Cedric Avenue, there is a street called Hip Hop Boulevard, led by Al Pizarro and the men, but, just trying to assist in any way I could to help hip hop receive the recognition it deserved. Those are things that.
That's amazing. Listen, you got a very exciting career. And so you said something about economic development, which I think is important because even in your job as working in TV and film, bringing films to communities has a certain economic development impact, would you say?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there are iconic New York films, music, and other entertainment entities which I believe have attracted people to New York City and also to other locations where films and televisions programs have been filmed, or even the depiction. Although there might be a television show which is filmed in Los Angeles, it depicts New York, and people are flocking to New York City to go to these iconic locations, spend some money in the community, and also some vibrancy for the community as well as attract people to move to New York, which I believe Jay-Z, Biggie, and Fabulous, Busta Rhymes, all these people have contributed to making Brooklyn dope with a vision of what the Brooklyn is over the past 20, 30 years or so. And, people like Lil' Kim, Foxy Brown, all these people shout out Brooklyn on a regular basis.
That's correct.
And, Queens, not to be left behind,
Queens get some money. Come on now.
Noriega, you got, Nas, of course, and all these people, 50 Cent, all these people contribute to people thinking of, oh man, I want to go to Queens one day. Oh, I want to go to Brooklyn or the Bronx one day. I want to go to 1520 Cedric Avenue one day. And all these things contribute to making New York City dope as a vibrant city. And then, you can't leave out Staten Island as well. Shout out to the Wu-Tang Clan, and RZA, Method Man. All of them cats are dope. So all of them contribute to making New York City as a significant place that people want to come to. But at the same time, they get left out of the tourism mentions or the tourism inclusions for New York City. We just had a big U.S. Open. I'm not sure how much hip-hop connection they had with it.
That's interesting. You're right about that.
But let me tell you something. The other day, we did have Queen's Day at the Met.
Yes.
Right, at
Queen's
City
Day
Field.
At the Met
yes.
Gal. Yeah.
And the DJ was Ralph McDaniels, and I worked with them to have a Tribe Called Quest Boulevard street sign on display while that occurred. So, there's chipping an iceberg.
Yeah.
So
I want to make sure I got that because you said Queens at City Field?
At City Field, they had Queen's Day. The Mets had Queen's Day.
Okay.
And it went one day before the Marlins game they played, and it was very nicely done.
Yeah, and the reason I double back on that is because I just want to be clear, like our leaders are doing, like yourself, are doing great things. A colleague of mine, her name is Tanisha Morrison, did a Queen's Day at Met Gala.
Oh, wow.
So there's like all of this art and culture intersection there.
Right.
So have you seen the most recent film from Spike Lee, From Highest to Lowest?
Not yet.
Okay. You have to see it.
Yeah, I'm going to
because it is interwoven with hip hop culture. And so it's so, once you see it, you'll understand why I'm asking this question. But do you think there is, like, what's next in hip hop culture from the way that you see it?
Ever changing as a culture, and the youth is taking their own stance. And so there's going to be new exciting things, I'm sure. And then also, there'll be other art forms as well.
Yeah.
The African diaspora is very creative, and that's an understatement.
Right.
And so from America to Jamaica, Trinidad, Nigeria, Ghana, UK, There's a lot of creativity that is being developed. Sometimes, well, most of the times, the funding is not there to support it, but people are going to create regardless.
Right. That's right.
So, you just got to keep making things happen. And there's a quote, I don't know the origin of it, but I think it's French, something about the best book has never been written, the best book written has never been read, and the best book read hasn't been understood.
Wow.
So, there's something to just keep creating.
Yeah.
All the creators out there, and I don't necessarily mean content creators, I mean people who are actually creating art, keep creating.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so there's a lot of people in the world that would love to have walked in the shoes and continue to walk in the shoes that you have walked in terms of access, in terms of the things that you're doing, even from the TV and film perspective. They're trying to find their way into the media space. What advice would you give to people who are going to school, can't figure it out, trying to make an inroad to the spaces like your story about becoming a production assistant, and that has now led you to a long career of TV and film? What advice would you talk to the young people about?
Well, let me say this. Where I am now, I pretty much created my own lane.
Nice.
There's not a cookie-cutter approach to success. Now, 2025, moving forward, it is easier than it was 20, 30, 40 years ago. You have access on your phone that people had to go to the library to get, that people had to invest a lot to get. And so utilize that technology wisely. There's jokes, there's times for jokes and games, but that could really be utilized to create a better environment for yourself, or your family, and the community that you live in if it's used wisely. So I don't want to give a specific approach to what needs to be done, but use your time wisely, and knowledge is king. I went to college. I'm not necessarily working in the field that I went to college for, but I do believe that being educated and being just a knowledge of life and gives the opportunity to create the lane that you want for yourself.
Right.
And let me say this, that what I have accomplished hasn't been rewarding in terms of economic, making money for myself. But I do believe that it has made an impact in society in more ways than one, now and into the future, to get the respect for the community where hip-hop has historically come from.
Yeah, and thank you for being transparent about that. You said what you have done has not made a dent in terms of where you should have been financially. Do you ever think about that and get pissed off, or just like what? Sometimes there's a reflection moment, like I'm putting in all of this work, it's not paying off. Like that's a real thought sometimes.
Everybody, I believe, at their job or what their career is or where they are in life, think that they could have done a little bit better than where they are. There's a few people in the world who are satisfied, but it depends on your approach to life, that what is considered to be a success. Giving away backpacks to kids going to school, that helps out the family. Maybe more groceries can be bought, maybe another textbook can be, bought. And then working with the public library is something that, creates an environment for, a book. Or reading, is something that I think advances. Not to be selfish in your approach sometimes is beneficial for a greater good. And, not to, perceive as money's the root of getting everything done. Money does help.
Yeah.
Money does help a lot, but money isn't everything all the time. So you just got to keep moving forward. And then sometimes money finds you.
Right.
Rewards can come in different forms, and money can be one of them, but money is not the only thing. The only thing to advance what you're trying to do.
Yeah, and I appreciate you sharing that. And so I know that I read that your vision and philosophy was inspired by your grandmother's values of Pan-African legacy. Let's talk about that because I think it's important to interweave some of the family dynamics here.
Well, my family's from Jamaica. I was born in Jamaica. My grandmother, she was a Garveyite. So
What does that mean?
she followed the philosophies and opinion of Marcus Garvey,
Got it.
who was a Pan-Africanist. And he really was revolutionary in his approach towards creating an environment that African people of the African diaspora, whether in America, the Caribbean, Africa, UK, Canada, wherever, are proud of themselves. And sometimes it is, he had a Back to Africa movement. And so, people aren't necessarily physically going back to Africa, but people, I think, should have in their mindset an acknowledgement of being proud of their roots, being proud of their life, being proud of their legacy. Whether it is you are from the South to New York, whether you're from the Caribbean to New York, whether you're from anywhere in the world, and where you are in the world, regardless if it's in a big city, small city, whatever the case may be proud of yourself and your family legacy, because everybody here on this earth is a miracle. Feel good about yourself that you're able to, just see the next day and make the best of the next day.
Yeah. And so have you picked up any kind of technical skills just working around film and TV? I know you said you acted as the liaison production as technical skills. Have you worked with any camera equipment? Do you kind of understand that environment or?
Working in the location department, and let me say this: if there's people interested in working in film, it's good to work in different departments, and that way you have some type of knowledge and expertise of what it takes to make a movie or a film or a video.
Yeah.
These things don't happen by osmosis. You have to put some time and energy in, early mornings, late nights, and getting things done. I do have widespread knowledge of working in film, over these past, almost 3 decades. And I've made documentaries, I've made short films, and even what I'm doing now in terms of these street names and honoring hip hop, perhaps might turn into a screenplay and turn into a film project as well.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And so there's a lot of conversations around the communities being gentrified, and I know that some of the work that you're doing helps to preserve the legacy. Do you ever have conversations with the community? What is the community saying to you as you're doing this work in different spaces?
Well, to your face, the community would say, "Oh, great job. You're doing this. We love this." But, the Biggie mural was vandalized maybe 2 years ago. The one on St. James and Fulton Street, right on the corner, where it's a picture of his face right next to the beauty salon. And Vincent Ballantyne, who painted that mural, had to come back and repaint it. It was in the news, and people took notice of it. So you could have 100 people, and 99 people might like it, but that one person might, spit on it. But at the same time, though, you got to keep pushing forward. So the community support verbally has been good, and in their actions as well. Last weekend when we had the back to school event, working with the local bar, which is new to the neighborhood, they allowed the power to be used from their establishment for the DJ. A bakery around the corner, the Good Batch, they gave allotment of cookies to give away to the kids who were getting backpacks. And so, and Key Food, they provided waters and shared support. And in the mosque on the corner, they had their own backpack giveaway the week before. So, they've been supporting. The fire department came through, turned on the hydrant, and the YPD came and blocked the streets off, working with street activities. They gave the permit. And once again, the Department of Youth and Community Department of New York City, they were supportive as well with solidifying the permit for the event. And there are, employees at these places who are supportive. And then, you think about it as the hip hop community, let's say, is going into politics, is going into these high-ranking jobs. And so, they have the opportunity to share their support in their own way, cultural affairs and community outreach. And so, people keep that in mind as well when they are dealing with people who are a part of it. And speaking about the Beastie Boys again, there was an older council member who was in the office before, and then not to say that she didn't understand the significance of hip hop and the contribution that it has made to New York City and society, but it's helpful when you don't got to explain it. And so Christopher Martin formed that community board. He was successful in advancing it forward. And then who I mentioned previously, Carolina Rivera, she was supportive. The city council member, Carolina Rivera, she was supportive. And I worked with her again. Forthcoming will be a street name for Jean-Michel Basquiat in the Village, coming to be dedicated in the near future.
Wow. A lot of great work here, LeRoy. So let's just shift a little bit while we have a few minutes left. You also are doing this work on the West Coast.
Oh, yeah. I worked with the city of Oakland to have a street name for Tupac Shakur there.
Was that successful?
Yeah, it was dedicated November 1st, 2023.
Wow.
November 1st or 2nd. So that went well. The mayor at the time, the council member, and the Congresswoman Barbara Lee, who is now the mayor of Oakland, was supportive of this, as well as Vice President at the time, Kamala Harris.
Right,
she was supportive. Okay. She's from Oakland.
Right.
And so all of these people, when I reach out to them, sometimes you get good feedback, sometimes you don't, but these things work itself out. And so working with Senator Schumer to have the resolution passed nationwide, that helped towards advancing it locally as well. And one thing that I'm trying to do is get the Congress members and senators who co-sponsored the resolution to honor hip-hop recite it for a spoken word project and have that recording shared. And I'm also attempting to have it done with another resolution.
Meaning having them actually read the resolution?
Read the resolution.
And record it as a...
And record it as a spoken word project. And that hopefully can be recorded this year in time for November, which is Hip Hop History Month.
That's amazing. And so will there be any kind of press around Hip Hop History Month for this year? Because it's going to launch in November 2025. I mean, we're starting here, but there's an awareness that needs to go to the schools and things like that, right?
Well, it's on the books. You could put the information out there. There's a lot of things going on in the world.
Okay.
And so people gravitated and they will acknowledge it. Some people might have a social media post.
Right.
Some people might do more. Some people might not have the power to do more, but they could do acknowledgments. And then from there, it could grow. Hip Hop History Month in November is one thing, but also in August is... August 11th is Hip Hop Celebration Day, and the month of August is Hip Hop Recognition Month. And these things are all on the books in the congressional record. So along that line, the information is out there. Every holiday doesn't get celebrated like.
But we're going to put the awareness and things like that out there. And so when you worked on the West Coast, did you find any differences on how you had to navigate the spaces? Like, was there a difference in between working on the East Coast and the West Coast with the community, or just...
Every community is different regardless of where you are. Manhattan is different than Brooklyn, and Brooklyn is different than the Bronx. And let me say this, that I was approached previously to have a street name for Big L up in Harlem. And in my, allotted amount of time, it's not something that I could do, but there were people who pushed to have that done. And so what I wanted to do was to just show an example of this can be done, because there was people who were saying, damn, does Biggie deserve to have a street name for him? And, everybody, it's an honor to have a street name for an individual. And not everybody's going to have a street name for them, but why not hip hop? Why not hip hop artists who represent the streets in which they're from more than anybody else in entertainment or in academia? This is something that I thought that would be significant, and it has been successful.
Yeah, and just so you know, Tri-State, we also just recently did 2 street namings for our former beloved colleagues, Calvin LeBron, a.k.a. Mr. C, DJ Mr. C, and Isaac Freeman, also known globally as Fat Man Scoop. Do you think there will ever be a time where we can change the policy around naming streets only when people die?
I think that naming the streets after someone has passed is more ideal than not, because there are times in people's lives where they might make a mistake, and a street name is just something. You know, people could be honored in several different ways, but I think there was a street name for O.J. Simpson before he died. And so, that street, I don't know if it stayed up or it was chaos or what the case may be. But, with his trial and, being acquitted and then being rearrested, there are a give and take to honoring somebody, so.
Yeah. Do you feel like there's an opportunity to continue to extend this kind of maybe it's not the street naming, but maybe it's a Hollywood Walk of Stars. Like, there has to be something more, more. Like, I would love to be able to come into New York and go somewhere to a museum, a cultural space that really just embodies all of the hip-hop history for all of the boroughs.
Well, there is a forthcoming hip-hop museum.
How could I sit here and say that? And of course I know that. Let's talk about that. Do you know a little bit about that?
I'm not affiliated.
Rocky Bucano.
I am not affiliated with that entity.
Right. The Hip Hop Museum is forthcoming, and that's supposed to be a museum that embodies all of the culture.
Yeah. And they haven't reached out to me.
Oh, okay. Okay, and on to the next question, because, so what's next?
Well, that spoken word project is pending, so that would be dope. Hopefully it'll come out before November. And what I'm trying to do, I am Jamaican heritage, grew up in New York, so it's kind of like, in a way, I have a different approach to the way how things are. And just as Marcus Garvey was born in Jamaica and came to New York and made an impact in terms of his revolutionary thinking, these are things in which can be advanced. And I'm not necessarily the person. Tupac had a great quote. He said, I might not change the world, but I'll spark the mind that does, or something along that line. And so, he was a revolutionary type of artist.
Yeah.
And so I'm only one man.
Yeah.
I do have people who do support what I'm doing, and I support them back. And there are things in which are happening, which hopefully will develop into greater things in the future.
Good.
But, just like hip hop, you listen to hip hop from 1979 is not the same as hip hop in 2025. So there will be evolution of art and culture, and the power of art and culture making a difference. You mentioned before about, there are certain entities which are trying to hold back and prevent diversity and things of the sort. But the youth are, the most powerful entity.
They really are.
The most powerful entity in the world. And when the youth rise up and they take a stance, things can change for the better. Hip hop is something that was created by the youth in the streets of New York without support, without financial backing. And matter of fact, they were villainized and criminalized for their creation. Shout out to movies like Beat Street, Wild Style, Crush Groove. All these things, are great movies that I think people should take a look at if they want to just, see what the time capsule was like for hip hop emerging. And, there are other great examples of that. And with that, there's an opportunity to use where we are now to advance for the future and or just enjoy where we are now.
So as you have done such great, impactful work in New York City and across multiple states, I want you to share some of your wisdom about not only being passionate about a project or advocating for it, but finding a fine balance of doing business and having conversations with people like Senator Schumer and just understanding how to navigate so that you're making measurable results.
Well, let me add to what you just said to include Patricia Robinson, Shelley Wade, Skip Dillard. These are people in radio, but they're using the radio to make a difference as well, and advancing the art and culture of hip hop to not only to make people dance, but also to have people think. There's jobs involved in radio. There's jobs involved in entertainment, and so using that knowledge that I have in terms of this could lead to that, and that could lead to A could lead to B, and B and C to D. These are things in which can help to advance the art, the culture, the economic impact, the success, and then from there move on to bigger and better things. There's a lot of examples out there, just last night, because recently LL Cool J hosted the Video Music Awards, and he's a Queens kid,
right?
Local guy, New York City guy, and he made a life for himself from rapping to acting to hosting to being pretty much being a statesman for hip hop.
Right.
And so all of that is very commendable. And there's a lot of young people who are coming up in the hip hop field. If you want a good example of how to do it, look to LL Cool J. Look to various many others that are out there. Yeah. 50 Cent, Queen Latifah, like God bless. All of these, Lauryn Hill, all these people create in their own way, and they use their art to advance to the next level.
Yeah, that's fantastic. How can people support you, follow you, connect to you? Tell us how you want the community to engage with you in your endeavors.
Well, let me say this. I usually keep a low profile.
Okay. But you get a lot of work done. That's the thing.
I get a lot of work done, and I'll let the work speak for itself.
Yeah.
And, while it's cool to, I have an Instagram page for like these different street names for Christopher Wallace Way, and HeteroDoxX Incorporated has an Instagram page, and I'm working with various different people in different fields. I think that people really need to look inside themselves, and from there, I believe that you can be inspired to create great things if that's what you want to do, or to just make things great in your own home, make great things in your own community. Big Boy from Outkast had a great quote, said something along the line of, if you want to change the world, start on your block or start on your corner.
That's right.
And so, from there, one corner is connected to the next corner.
Yeah. And
just keep on moving, expand it.
So in the future, are there any options for people to sign petitions or anything like that?
No.
Okay.
I mean, I'm in a good place where the initiatives which I started are moving forward.
That's wonderful.
What I would like to happen, there were a few which did not get resolved, like a street name in East Orange for Naughty by Nature, as well as the Fugees. That would be dope if that was to occur. The street naming for De La Soul has not been dedicated yet, so hopefully that can happen. Unfortunately, True Goy Dove passed away, so he won't be able to be a part of it. But at the same time, though, I think that there's an opportunity widespread for hip-hop to be recognized for the contribution that it has made to society, large and small.
Wonderful. And there you have it, Tri-State. LeRoy McCarthy, who is more than an advocate, he's a cultural guardian. Through his grassroots campaigns, municipal advocacy, artistic projects, he literally ensures that hip-hop's pioneers are remembered in the very streets that shaped them. Thank you so much for joining. As I tell all of my guests, once you're here, you're a part of the Block family, so you have a home here. So at any time that you want to come back and give updates, just know that you can do that here.
Well, thank you for your time. Thank you to the listeners. I appreciate it that I'm able to share this information, and hopefully from this, other great things can come.
Wonderful. And there you have it, Tri-State. You know that you can follow me on Instagram at Convos on the Block. Again, that's Convos on the Block.